imagine 100 million people focusing on doing what matters, uh, doing doing the things that are going to influence them the most, things that are going to make them be more responsive versus reactive, eating a colorful plate, reading, breathing, doing other parasympathetic activities that'll put them in a good flow state. Imagine 100 million people doing what matters that would influence what you're trying to do and make what you're trying to do more successful.
Wonderful. All right, we were Dr. Clayton Skaggs. And Dr. Skaggs, I have to tell you, I like this train of thought. So we talked about in our discovery call about doing what matters.
Mm.
Why are people doing what doesn't matter? in the realm of what we're going to talk about, health and well-being, fitness, the whole deal.
Yeah, well, there's a combination of things that are probably contributing to that, and largely because doing what matters for them and doing what matters for most of us is hard, and often it's complicated, and so everyone knows eating a colorful plate is good, and yet often we look down at our plate and it's brown or full of processed things, and we just consistently don't do those simple things because they're hard, they're maybe not exciting, and we get distracted by the other things that are trending or exciting that that aren't these simple things that we know really matter.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that assessment. Yeah. And doing what matters to them, let's kind of focus this on the lens related to, in terms of fitness and injury prevention. We talked about this a little bit before in our discovery. And I
Hmm.
said, oh, would love to get into it about over 40, because it's a big part of the audience, the fit pros especially, and giving yourself the best opportunity to not be injured regularly over this in this age group and doing the things that matters to them.
Sure. Well, I thought about our talk today and about what we could do to help individuals listening here, and probably one of the most valuable things that I think you could do for those 40 and over that come into your care and wanting to get better, get more fit, resolve issues that are stopping them, is to educate them and spend time on giving them perspective about where they really are.
Mm.
And we do this at the institute, with every client that comes in, and they're coming in from all over the country to see us with unresolving pain. We start with education, and here's something that would be really easy for any practitioner to do is draw a circle and say, okay, Mr. Smith, you are here, and you want to be here. You want to be the greatest of all time for you, right? You want to be the GOAT for you. You want to be playing with your grandkids 20 years from now. You want to be playing golf 20 years from now. You want to be still running and doing these things that you've told me you want to do. Well, you're here. And what got you here are these 20 years in front of that dot. And 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 that has contributed to where you are, and that's why you're weak, or your the exams we've done, the assessments we've done show that you're standing poorly, you have discoordination, you have imbalances, and so it would be unrealistic for you to think that you could be up here at the greatest of all time in a month, because it's taken you 20 years to get here. And just that simple graphic to show them, and usually if you ask them the question, so how long do you think it's taking you to get to this situation where you have pain, you have weakness? So, oh gosh, I've had these troubles. I keep stumbling in sports, I keep stumbling in the gym for years, 10 years. Well, so if you've been doing that, then it's likely going to take at least years to get out of that, to restore that, to bring balance, and then sustain that balance over time.
So would you say this is interesting, like this perspective of understand educating where you're at? Do you
Mm.
feel that a lot of people, how do I want to say this? They either don't know, they've never thought that this is where I'm at, or they've denied that this is where they're at.
Absolutely. And there's actually some studies that support that really strongly. Probably the most well-known study is Dan Gilbert's study, where I think he compiled 4 to 6 different populations and studies and asked individuals their perspective on where they are relative to where they were and where they think they're going to go. And the title of his study was uh, the illusion of the end of history, or maybe it was the
Hmm.
end of history illusion. And so the concept there is uh, everyone thinks, and it's human nature to think where they are right now is where they'll be in 5 years, and and where they are right now, they'll be just as strong and fit and talented and motivated in 10 years without doing anything. They think it'll, and so there's a couple of concepts that make us like that. One of the ones that I think is probably most relevant is retrospective view. So if we look back, we're just reviewing what's already happened versus constructive prospective view, looking ahead. It there's no variables that we know yet. So to construct what's going to happen is much harder in our brain. And
Yes.
so we just simplistically, the brain loves simplicity. So we say, oh, I'll be similar to where I am right now.
Yeah.
And so a personal experience that happens at the Institute all the time, we do photos as part of our assessment, very standardized and sophisticated photos that we have algorithmic assessments to them. And when I put those up with individuals, especially our 40 and over group, 40 years and older group, they often they'll say, "I'm not sure. Is that me? That can't." Uh, well, I think the lighting's off there. That's
Yeah. Yeah. That's
or
right.
so many funny uh, comments that come out of that because they can't imagine that they've changed. They still
Mhm.
think they're 20. They and he,
Yeah.
he himself, and I've got a pretty good observational view of things. I look at folks all the time, um, and so when I do my own VHRs, we call them,
Yeah.
and visual health representations. When I do my own, I'm amazed at how I look, and I have a pretty good perception of the body. So it's high value to get an assessment of where you stand. Photos are great. Having a circle of advisors that's assessing you and can give you perspective on where you stand is just high value to helping you know, wow, I'm not where I used to be, and if I want to be out here at the greatest of all time, I've got work to do, and I've probably got some time to um, to put in.
So, two things. So, one, it sounds like there's a disconnect, like the past self hasn't reconciled with the current self. And looking at this and saying, hey, we're still kind of living in, at least mentally too, and maybe mentally thinking physically too, that I am who I used to be. So I don't understand how this could be me now, reconciling that. And why in the 40-ish age range do you think this becomes pretty a larger issue or something that becomes more of a existential thing about this?
Well, I think 40 is a couple things possibly. 40 is certainly a time point when individuals are are taking a moment and beginning to assess where they are. It's sort of the gut check age. Actually, it's probably now 50. I think it used to be
Right.
40 now, as these things go. And I have clients sit down in front of me all the time and say, "Well, I've been putting all this time into my work. I've been putting time into my family, and now I'm ready to put attention to me and my health, so I can have a wonderful life moving forward." And of course, as a fitness specialist yourself, you know that that's not the best approach
Right.
to 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 just ignore 20 years and then decide to do something. Obviously, the best strategy is to do things,
Right.
all along the way, and in a balanced approach. And so, uh, I think that's part of the reason. And I also think it is because of the body's just amazing capacity to compensate. So
Yeah.
the body will compensate, and you'll get by with imbalance and weakness and poor training for tens of years. I mean, I see it routinely, and it's fascinating uh, how how folks are in the shape they're in, with all that's happening in their body with imbalance. I'll usually tell individuals, you know, you're in pretty good shape for the shape you're in. So they love that comment. And so I think that's part of it. My pro athletes, fascinatingly, often don't limp in until about age 27. They'll run 4.3 and just do amazing things in their game and their sport for a while. They'll often come in and say, "I never had an injury in college. I hardly ever had to go in the training room." But then they'll limp in, and they eventually limp in because they've exceeded the body's ability to compensate.
Mm, I see. So yeah, I was think this it's interesting. I do think that 50, you're right. I think we're extending this as times are changing and think people in many ways are it's hard to quantify this, but there's a different look and feel to people, especially who are taking care of themselves or reasonably. The body can take a lot of punishment of a not great living. But once someone is, you've talked to them related to this is where you are. What's the
Mhm.
next step you're taking with someone after that? Once you've established the circle, you exist here. Now what?
Yeah, well, that's a very important um, you know point, and an area that we put a lot of emphasis to, and and how you start that process is essential. I mean, as you know, uh, gym memberships are heavily over enrolled because they
Yes.
know people fall off. And why do they fall off? I mean, I think they're over enrolled by 40 to 60%, meaning they book or sell more, that much membership excess. And the reason folks stop training, stop going to the gym, is because they get injured, and they get injured because they're doing too much too soon, or training poorly in other ways. But usually it's too much, right?
Hmm.
So uh, in terms of how you start, I think it's essential to first build that base of stability and intrinsic coordination. And as I outline in my book, with a lot of the individuals that we see, we're often starting them off with 3 or 4 simple exercises, and having them do that for 2 to 3 weeks and nothing else. And this is emphasized throughout the work we do. And it's fascinating when they do these simple things and they hit the neuroimmune target. They actually gain muscle and lose fat. So they'll often come in. Oh, I've been doing Orange Theory. I've been doing various forms of yoga, plus swimming, plus running, and resistance training. It's not uncommon. They're training 5, 7, and and not and they're not happy. They're not where they want to be. They're not changing their body comp. They're they're in pain, and we pull them back and say, okay, based on our assessment, based on what we've identified, I want you to do these 2 or 3 things and nothing else for 2 to 3 weeks, and then we'll reassess and we'll get to doing fun things like pull-ups and resistance training down the road. But if we don't establish this intrinsic stability, coordination, we'll stumble. So and sometimes those simple exercises are things like diaphragmatic breathing, simple trunk activations, um, like like a bird dog,
Yep.
or quadruped pelvic floor is another exercise we use to engage that that bottom part of the stability mechanism. Some simple things that just prompt good posture, and the thing that is part of the educational process too, and this is, I think, one of the most important things practitioners can do for their clients is to teach them. And we encourage this with our practitioners at the Institute all the time, spending at least 20 or 30% of your session to their health and performance and things they're trying to do. So to teach them that when they hit the target in this early phase, they are stimulating the neuroimmune system that is closely linked. The nervous system and the immune system, their interaction is we can't even imagine how much interaction is happening between the neural and immune system. We don't understand fully how much, but we know it's enormous. So when you hit the target doing these simple exercises for 2 to 3 weeks, you just enhance and explode that mechanism such that because you're hitting a target again, you change physiology. In these photos we do, we see dramatic physiologic change in 2 or 3 weeks with them doing less than all those things they were doing, and because we're hitting the target. It's just fascinating.
It is fascinating. It's gosh, I was listening to you say this and I started thinking, man, this is exactly my approach. I
Hmm.
have I often get similar things where someone comes to me and they're doing quite a bit or they're very sedentary, but I get a lot of people who are regular exercisers and I say, it doesn't matter what you've been doing, I'm going to be pulling you back quite a bit. And I know this feels counterintuitive to you. So, but we have to actually go back, pull back and simplify what we're doing in order to start progressively moving forward. And there's always a little bit of a like, we're so used to more. We're so used to just let's put more load on, let's put more intensity, volume. And I also always call it kind of like the guy who wants to go play pickup basketball in his 40s, but hasn't played since he was like 20 and
Yeah.
thinks, I could still dunk, man. I mean, I could still go and hit a three and, I'm going to start, shuffling my feet and then boom, injury. It's like,
Yeah.
it goes back to that disconnect, right? You still think you're that person.
Yeah.
And you have that same level of foundation mobility. So let's connect you to the current version of you with the current version of what is actually going to help you thrive eventually and be stable, mobile, not get injured. We want you to be healthy. And I
Yeah.
feel whenever I tell people that, it makes so much sense to them. They're like, oh, I never thought about it that way. But it's always like they're indoctrinated into, you're going to start this class and we're going to kick your ass, man. We're going to make you sweat
Yeah.
hard. Like you're going to get injured in those environments. So I'm going to take a more conservative approach with you. Yeah.
No, that sounds wonderful. And you know, I come and when someone says, "Well, I understand what you're saying, uh, but can I still play golf, or can I still do these other things?" And I said, "Look, are you happy where you are? And you're telling me you're not happy where you are, and but I have to get them to really acknowledge that they're not happy where they are, and so we have to change our approach. And so it sounds like you're locking that in really well.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. I think, you know, there's this disconnect with people. And I think when you said that the circle, I envisioned the circle. You know, I'm like, oh, I see the circle he's talking about. And the dot, very powerful. And often we don't think about that. People see themselves as a different version. They go to the past. And I think when you said constructing the future, it makes me think of something like retirement. Someone in their 20s doesn't think their 65-year-old self exists because it doesn't, but this person could exist and this person could be you. Could you actually think about investing in the future you this way? It's very difficult to create that connection for people.
Oh, for sure.
That's a foreign person. That's not you in their
Yeah.
mind.
You know, and so telling them stories, I think, can help them gain perspective. And that's in my book. It's full of stories and science, and it's purposeful because you know, we learn through stories best.
Right.
And a story to help people gain perspective on this on appreciating where they're wanting to go or where they really are is, hey, look at some photos of 10 or 20 years ago. And when you look at those photos and you see yourself, what's your emotion? What do you feel? You get a little melancholy because you're like, oh my gosh, I really I had brown hair actually in myself. I had hair. And so
Yeah.
you you get a little melancholy, and that's real, and that can sometimes help them think, oh, and 10 years from now, I am probably going to look and feel different.
Yeah.
And here's the real magic though. Uh, if you can get them to appreciate that, and you can get them to appreciate that there is going to be change, then you can often get them to buy into influencing that change,
Mm.
because you can. And I know you've seen it.
Mhm.
We've certainly seen it. That if you do the right things, and you know, we like the phrase "do what matters." If you do what matters, you can influence what that next 10 or 20 years will look like, and that is that is irrefutable. There's this science,
Yeah.
and certainly folks like you have experienced that. That if you do what matters, you do the right training, you do the right eating, you do the right thinking, and thinking is the biggest part probably. Uh, you can influence what you will look and feel like in 10, 20 years. A really fun study was Ellen Langer's study, and this shows you the potency of the mind.
Mm.
Her counterclockwise study, where they took um, 70-year-old men, and they took one population and put them in this isolated environment that was surrounded by movies and pictures, and everything that they lived within was 20 years previous. And then they took another population of these 70-year-old guys and let them live in the current state. And I think it was just a week. So these guys lived in an environment that was 20 years younger for 1 week. And so they were thinking and living 20. They had hearing improvements, blood pressure improvements. I mean, strength improvements, e- extraordinary physiologic changes.
Right.
So, um, that's just one study that's an example of we are in control of how we're going to change.
Yeah. That's awesome. Do you ever get into discussions related to maybe like related to injury? Okay, so we're trying to avoid or lessen the opportunity of injury, but also maybe the impact of being injured when you're in this age group or beyond and the significance of that.
Yeah. So, injuries, it's going to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're trying to prove yourself, there's a good chance you're going to maybe have some injury, and so that's where a good circle of advisors that that's involved in this journey for you can first identify, okay, is this harmful? Is there something torn? Is there something really broken in the structure? And most of the time, it's not. Most of the time, it's not. And yet, it does require some pulling back. Depending on the grade of injury, pulling back, letting it recover. But then once it recovers, what's going to help that injury or reduce your recurrence of pain is actually moving more. And so um, helping these individuals, especially the 40, 50 and over group, recover through pain, recover through injury, really requires education on on pain and injury and knowing when it's okay. And so my classic story is, I was playing squash, some months back, and I was in this game of players better than me, but I wanted to win, and I felt something in my elbow, and knew I should probably stop, but I wanted to win, so I kept going. Fortunately, we won, but the next week, I I couldn't bend my elbow to brush my teeth, and so I'd clearly torn something in my elbow, which required 6 to 8 weeks. And so, why was my elbow not allowing me to bend? Uh, with that pain message, because it was trying to protect me to let that heal.
Right.
Yeah. So pain is not related to tissue damage, but pain is related to letting you heal. So 6 to 8 weeks go by. My team works on me a bit, and I'm doing great. I'm working and not running into any pain, so that tissue is healed. But I might reach back and try to get something in the back of my car and feel a little twinge of
Yeah.
pain, but it's healed. So because I know that I'm okay and it's healed, I know that signal doesn't mean anything. It just means I triggered an old message. And versus if I felt that signal and said, oh my gosh, I've I've still got a big problem there. I shouldn't move my arm anymore. I'll just perpetuate my problem.
Right.
So so appreciating what those signals mean, and it doesn't mean stop moving. As long as you have a circle of advisors that is letting you know what those mean, usually movement is going to be better than not
Yeah.
moving.
What you said, it really resonated with me is anytime you're trying to improve yourself, and especially physically, there's a chance of injury. You probably will have something go on.
Yep.
I can't I You're one of the only people I've heard say that. It's a big mantra of mine actually, because I remember when I first started training 2 decades plus ago, and I would tell clients, listen, you're doing something physically active. There's a good shot that at some point you're going to have aches, pains, feedback that's telling you, I don't feel that great. I think sometimes with patients clients work with, they think this process is just going to make me feel good all the time.
Yeah.
I'm just going to feel amazing. I'm like, not so fast. Like, you're improving, but we also have to manage that. There's going to be some pain. There's going to be times where you're like, oh, my shoulder doesn't feel that great today. Doesn't mean you have a major injury, by the way.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes we don't talk to clients, patients enough about this of understanding pain, what that signal means, and what it doesn't mean at the same time.
Yeah, and that, it's fascinating how we think as, as humans, and but if you have a good team around you, a good circle of advisors, that phrase comes from my book, and it's one we use all the time, to help individuals know that it would be unrealistic for you not to have some signal, some discomfort as we're doing these things. I mean, if you really think about it, okay, you you just did all this pressing work, and you pulled a sled, or
Yeah.
you know you do you think it's realistic that you wouldn't maybe feel something? And then especially if you were really imbalanced back there at that dot, it would be unrealistic for you not to. I mean, and the other message I often try to communicate as soon as they have discomfort or pain or injury, hey, this is a gift.
Mm.
This is a gift for you, because it shows us where some imbalance and weakness is. And when you build through this, when you work through this, oh man, you're gonna just pile on resilience, learning, and strength. And so it's rare that the client embraces my concept of a gift until a few weeks later.
Yeah.
But I used to say, hey, just want you to know, this is a gift, and when it happens early, I love it even more,
Yeah.
because we get past this. Hey, you're going to learn about pain. You're going to learn about how tissues heal, and this will serve you for the rest of your life. This will serve you for the rest of your life.
Can you imagine someone hears that they're thinking, Clayton, what is he talking about? Like this guy's crazy. I'm gonna This is a
Yeah.
gift, but it's right. You're more connected to your body than maybe you've ever been
Oh
before.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's another thing I always tell clients too. I'm like, we have to get you to learn what it's like to be inside your body and to feel different sensations. Because up to this point, you have kept a very monotone sensation life. Everything's about comfort, or just, I don't want to do too much or anything. And you actually don't know your body that well when
Mm.
you haven't moved it. So often,
No.
when one of the biggest things, this is an interesting thing about pain, is often sometimes someone may do a movement and they go, ouch, did that hurt or was it just uncomfortable? Oh, it was uncomfortable. Why did you say ouch for that?
Yeah.
They don't know the difference. In their
Oh,
mind,
yeah.
it's all the same. The signal's the same. Fascinating to me always,
Well, that's very good observation, Darian. And the more you can tune your clients into taking a moment, and we talk about, hey, pause, interpret what that signal is, and we put a lot of emphasis on words, and we, as soon as possible, try to get them to stop saying pain and call it a signal. Because
Mm.
if you say, well, what was that signal? You have to contemplate it, interpret it, what it is. If you say, oh, what was that pain? It involves all those influences and memories of pain that you've had, and
And
so your brain will sometimes just go to those, and just like you said, you'll say ouch,
yeah,
because it's going to those old memories.
that's right. I was just, whenever I would observe that, and I don't have that as much these days, but when I have observed, I'm like, oh, you don't know the difference between this. This is all
Mm.
the same. It's in a bucket of not feeling great. And
Yeah.
so when this is just kind of part of the process, is this is uncomfortable. And but knowing, like when you like someone probably like yourself and myself, I know my body really well. So when I know when something's wrong, like really wrong, like you knew about your elbow, you're like, whoa, I
Hmm.
literally, there's no extension at the elbow here. None.
Yeah.
Something really, that's not great. For someone else, that may not be obvious to them.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
I feel like, oh, it's
Yeah.
go away. It's gonna go away. you know, and that's part of
Yes.
knowing your body. You know.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think clients really appreciate is if you've spent time along the way. And we certainly hear this and see this at the institute. People have been with us 10 plus years. Uh, when they start communicating this knowledge back to you, that's one of the best things, one of the most coolest things for me, when they start educating it back, and that's a good testament that you've spent the time to teach them about injury, about pain, and to sense their body. I mean, we spend a lot of time on sensory awareness training and various exercises to stimulate the sensory awareness mechanism. So I say in the book, our sensory awareness are the highways to our understanding of movement.
Mm,
Without them, we we just move the best we can without, and that's usually not good. And
yeah.
you made a comment that we become numb in our comfortable living styles sometimes, and that's actually one of the body's mechanisms to stay out of trouble. So
Yep.
is to not sense and not feel, and I mean, you imagine moving down a direction of not feeling. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
not going to serve you.
And I also compare it to as kind of like, and you had mentioned about eating colorful foods and things of that nature. And I often think nutrition is a good comparative um, exercise in many ways. It could be, I remember storytelling. I love storytelling too. It's kind of like I remember I like eating at a lot of different places. I love vegetables. I love different cuisine, things that have very different complex flavors. In my mind, if I go to a place and I experience that, I could taste every single thing in it. I feel I have that sensation. Now, if I take someone else to the same place and their palate has never been associated with that, they may think this is not good at all, or
Mm,
this is bland, or this is this or that. Well, they're used to a certain thing. They may be used to fatty, salty foods all the time, all the time. So that's the only thing they associate with it. That's their ouch for them,
mm,
or
yeah.
that. And it's kind of this lack of exposure syndrome. So if you're not, so saying that if you've not moved regularly, once you start moving, you're like, what is happening to me? Like, what is wrong
Hmm.
with me? I'm like, nothing's wrong with you. So actually, some of the first things I say to my clients is, once we start with this very conservative approach, and I'm like you, we're not doing very hardly anything.
Yep.
Maybe five, six movements. Whoa. I mean, you're not going to feel comfortable. You're not going to feel comfortable, probably. That's just, and that sets the tone for their mindset, I feel. But if you don't say anything, it's like, well, you didn't tell me this was going to happen. I'm like, I have to tell you this is going to happen. Right. But the setup almost, like
Yeah.
you may feel this way. you know?
Giving them proper expectation. We
Yes.
put a lot on that. Um, and the more you can predict, the more confidence they'll have in you. So if you can say, look, here's what's likely going to happen, and then it happens, then you're in a good position to help them get down the road. And early on in my career, and someone said, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I fix people," and that was before I realized I have little to do with it, and was I was
Love that.
working in based on training and things. But
Yeah.
now, and my team, we all agree with this. Our biggest job is to help people get out of the way so
Mm,
that the resilience can come through, and so that that expectation, predicting here's what's going to happen, and then it happens, and they gain confidence in you, then you're helping them stay out of the way, have forward thinking uh, ideas and thoughts so that their body can build resilience and move forward.
Man, I love that. I love this energy here. It's just so awesome. Clayton, thank you for spending some time with me. Seriously, I love meeting my colleagues, having rich, insightful conversations. You certainly did that. So you mentioned your book. Would love for people to know about it a little bit more, how they can get it, and ways they can connect with you.
Well, thank you, Darren, and it's certainly been a delight talking with you. And I agree. It sounds like we're in step with how we try to care for folks and move them down that resilience journey. And that's really my purpose is to try to influence as many people as possible to know that the resiliency is in them, the mind body resiliency is in them, and that's kind of the lead off of 100 million people doing what matters. Wow, wouldn't that be amazing? Not, not even doing what matters based on my book or doing what matters just what you and I think, but doing what matters based on concepts that most of us know. That and if they would be doing those things, then what we're trying to do would be easier. And man, when that big mass of folks start moving that direction, can you imagine that?
Amazing.
And the book is just a catalyst for that. It's called The Power of Doing What Matters. You can get it on the website. Find out how to get on our website, powerofdoingwhatmatters.com. The work we're doing at the Institute is the Central Institute of Human Performance. That's kind of the lab for all that that's come through in the book.
Awesome. Clayton, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Yeah, Darren, hope we cross paths sometime.
Awesome.